welcome back to another episode of the Generation Elevation podcast. And today, I'm really excited to introduce to you a guest that I actually have already had on the show. But this one, it's better because in the past, this was over Zoom. But now, today, we officially get to meet in person to record something really special for you guys. And I can't wait for you to listen in to this episode because I know that especially if you're an athlete, there's going to be some major gold nuggets that you can take away from this episode because this incredible human has helped thousands of athletes improve their performance by working on their mindset. And so, with that said, I would like to introduce to you today, once again, Gabriel Deieno. Hello.
Hello. Thank you.
That's okay.
This is special.
This is so special.
Yes, being here again now in person, which is much better. And yeah, I hope I can make up to that expectation. I can share something that's helpful.
Of course. I think last time was extremely helpful, the tips that you gave. And at the same time, I said to you before we started this episode, how can we make this one different? Like, what are people needing to hear right now? And why should they listen to round 2 of us chatting together?
Yeah. That was great. We had a brief chat about how we can bring the best topic, the best ideas, the best interest. And we're obviously going to dive deeper into that, but we're briefly discussing about how we're both in a very similar path of going out for what you're truly passionate about. That's, I'll say, how we both follow our thing. Just listening and exploring and really trying to look for the things that you are passionate about instead of waiting for the moment that it clicks. It's just like going through the motion and enjoying the process of exercising your passion regardless of the temporary or external circumstances.
So if you're listening to this episode right now and you're here with us and you have a passion that is in your heart that you know is calling you, maybe you haven't taken action on that yet, then this is the episode for you. So Gabriel, for maybe the audience who are from my end, who have no idea who you are, who haven't listened to our episode together, would you be able to tell us 3 main key events in your life that have led you to who you are today?
Right. Well, definitely first one, or the first one that comes to my mind is I used to play football. So I am from Brazil. I used to play football. And the reason why, the main reason that opened my mind to the psychological side, which was something that I didn't even know that existed, that wasn't born for football, was a lack of confidence. So the moment that I realized I'm not playing how I could play because of something that's not physical, but rather something inside that I couldn't really touch that. So I think that moment of realization that, okay, there's something else to this. I gotta look for answers. When I was about 17 to 18 years old, and I'd say that was the triggering event that made me look for something else, which in this case was psychology. That's definitely, I would say that's event number 1.
So with event number 1, let's go deeper into that. Like you said that lacking confidence was impacting your performance as a footballer, right? What does that look like for you or sound like? How did you know you were lacking confidence?
It actually took me a while to understand what that was. On the surface, all I could see is in trainings, it's one thing. In games, it's a different thing. And I didn't have the words to express that, to explain what I was going through at that time. And all that I was seeing was a lot of fear, a lot of rushing, a lot of anxiety into the games. And I enter a loop of channeling that fear into working harder, which then led to more frustration because I was putting in more effort, but having less results. I kept going on that cycle for years. And then I realized, okay, there must be something. For a long period of time, I didn't know what it was. I had no idea what it was. I was just trying to put in more effort in that same loop, just going over that, which obviously didn't lead to better results. at that time was something very bad for me. But then today, when I look back into that, it was almost like a blessing that pretty much took me into the path that I'm following today.
Because I see so many athletes in particular who have a goal. Let's say they want to play professional in the sport that they do. Yet they're fighting so hard and they think that maybe their personal best or those amazing plays are coming from like that physical effort and hard work. However, more and more, I'm seeing obviously figures like yourself and the work that I do as well in terms of mindset starting to really become popular, which is exciting. But back then, I'm assuming that there wasn't really much of that out there for athletes.
Yeah, yeah. I think this area, psychology overall, it's something that's been around for like 70, 80 years. So it's relatively new. And that applied to sports, it's something that, if we take 10 years ago, it was something very rare. So it's still rising, it's still like gaining the space that it deserves. When I started, I couldn't find much about it. Social media was also very different at that time. So yeah, something that was always hard to find. Like I had to really look into the solutions, into the reasons why those things were happening. And I tried a bunch of things. It was like my own experiment back at that time, was trying to apply everything that I could get my hands on. A lot of them didn't work. Some of them did.
What's an example of something that didn't?
So pretty much everything that was putting back into that loop of, for example, creating unrealistic standards. So one quote that I always talk about is, if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. Obviously, there are many ways that we can interpret that quote, but I was looking for it in a way that I'm not achieving this, so I'm going to shoot for this. Double the amount of effort, but pretty much was just following the same loop of using fear as motivation, putting more pressure on myself and increasing the frustration. So yes, I would say this unrealistic expectations comparison to others, trying to ignore emotions almost in a way that is strength. Like, I don't feel good today, so more effort. I feel tired, so yeah, more effort. Always going into that path of trying to solve an emotional problem, putting in more physical work, which today sounds obvious that it's not the path. But back at that time, it felt like the only path that I could take.
I still think though that sort of motivation, get up, get it done, doesn't matter if you're tired or you're going through something, push through. I feel that messaging, there's still a blurry line between like when to rest and when to go.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that that's the same on your end?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's hard to give like what is the exact balance between the two, which is also depends on what state you are in. But yeah, I would say I'm much better at this, but still struggling with it from time to time. But yeah, knowing yourself is the only way to figure that out. Like, there's no one in the outside can get to you and say, look, this is your balance. This is what you were supposed to do. It's figuring out. And that's what's exciting.
Yeah, and this is the journey of life, right? It's getting to know yourself on that deeper level. So you realize that you had a lack of confidence and you delve deep into psychology and sports and how your mind impacts you when you perform. What was event number 2?
That's tricky. The first one was very clear, very almost obvious. Yeah, the second one I think was actually seeing a psychologist, which really helped a lot. So we were talking about this the other day. When I stopped playing football, I decided, okay, this is not my thing. And I've been super involved with that from the age of 7 to the age of 20. So in my mind, there was option A, and there was no option D.
Mm-hmm.
There was always the A plan. And when I found myself on that at that time, oh, okay, now I gotta choose something else. I need to have another goal, another path. I was already studying sports psychology. I was already posting about it, but I went to see a psychologist because I had no idea of what to do in life. And my request was, I want to find something that I love as much as I love playing football, that I will do regardless of the money. and I couldn't see it. I couldn't find it, even though it was just there, right in front of me. And I think working with a psychologist, even though it was a different way that I was later on in the future today, going to work with athletes, I think that was a very nice experience of seeing that talking to someone, which for a lot of people seem very superficial or there's no substance to it. You can guide them and give them strategies to find answers. And I think that moment of it was like a moment. Yeah, it's right in front of me. You just helped me to uncover that and see the reality. So yeah, that was also a key moment in my path.
And on the side, like tangent of that, let's say there are people listening to this episode right now who have that plan A and they only have plan A. And maybe they're in that cycle of like fighting, pushing, it's not working for them. Like for you in your case, you kept getting injured, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you realized that you weren't going to achieve your plan A. What would be your advice to those listeners right now?
It's tricky because each one has their own story, their own approach. My view on that is that having all of your eggs in only one basket it always comes with more tension and more pressure, which for some people can be a good thing, for other people might be bad. I would say for most people it would be bad. I would say even though if that's the only thing or the main thing for you, is still being able to not associate your identity to that thing or to the outcome of that thing. Because, and this is something that very often I discuss with players, is that they've been through that journey their whole lives. And a lot of them say this is the only thing that I know how to do. I'm awful at all other things, but this thing I know how to do it. And when this one thing that I'm good at is not going well or not going as well as I expected, it feels like everything is bad, that I am bad, that my identity is a loser, a failure, or something that didn't meet the expectations. So looking back in my path at that time, it felt like this. Like, this is the only thing that I have now. And now I'm going to stop doing this. So who am I? So people going through similar stuff, even if there's only plan A, being able to have other pieces that make up your identity. So you are not, think of a chair. If you have multiple legs to that, it's going to be stable. If there's only one, it's never going to be stable. And you take that off, there's nothing left. So yeah, I think that's the best tip. It's hard to say like, you should have a plan B or you should not have a plan B. I prefer having a plan B. Today, I don't have one in terms of my work. But yeah, I would say having multiple pieces or multiple factors in your life that you can rely on to be your identity. So it's something more profound than just an occupation that you have or just a business goal that you have or whatever that is.
I can really relate with this. And I would love to make it clearer for the listeners. That, for example, if someone was associating their entire identity around their plan A, for example, an athlete, what would their thought process be like or self-talk be like versus someone that isn't tying their identity to their plan A?
Great way to bring clarity to this. So most likely or most often, it's something that's very black and white. So I didn't before, I'm not good enough. I'm a striker and I didn't score, or I was supposed to be a star and I'm bench. This thing is not good enough. I'm not able to perform at the level that it was. I'm wasting time. I'm losing time. I'm wasting my career. It's very black and white. It's as if there's no in between. It's just, it's good or it's bad. There's no flexibility there. Because when we think about it, if there's only one thing that builds your identity and that thing is no longer there, it is extreme. There's nothing left. And when that thing is going well, it's super stable because there's nothing else around it that's not going as well. It's perfect. So that sort of instability, being very rigid with great or bad, I will achieve, I'm successful or I'm a failure. There's nothing in between. It's a very clear sign that you are going into the path of there's only one thing that matters. There's only one thing that finds me. And therefore, it promotes a feeling of almost surviving. I gotta make this work. Otherwise, I'm done. Because in reality, yeah, if there's nothing left to who you are, you're done.
And someone who hasn't attached their identity to their plan A, what would be the opposite thinking pattern of that?
You'll be more flexible. So that person will have negative thoughts. They would have become frustrated when things are not working out. But it's almost like a balanced frustration. Today, it wasn't good. Instead of things are not working, or the team is not performing, and there are things you do, or there's some sort of instructional feedback to this. I know what can get better. I know how to look into this instead of almost an avoidance approach. Like things are not going well, so it's the coach, it's the club. Only if things were this or that way. A fear approach. You're trying to avoid facing that thing because it's so comfortable. And when you are not attaching your identity, especially to the outcome. So for a footballer or any athlete, it is impossible that being a footballer is not part of your identity. But when your identity is being a successful footballer or a footballer that people like, then that identity is very fragile, especially if that's newly lack. So when I am a footballer, and a parent and a son and part of the community or having a religion, and it's not the part of being a footballer is not solely focused on the outcome, but on the execution of pretty much exercising my values through football. That's something that's a lot more stable, a lot more enjoyable, because it's not survival, it's more expression.
And then when you play from that place, right, it's the performance I feel and what I've seen is tremendously better than someone who's coming from that fixed mindset place of like fight or flight versus someone who's actually playing for the enjoyment of the game.
Definitely, definitely. It's a lot of players think that's a trade-off. The more I sacrifice, the better returns I'll get. In their minds, it makes sense. I'm going to trade my enjoyment. I'm going to trade my pleasure to better achievements. But in reality, it's not the way it happens. You almost take that pressure off, that stress off, and then performances improve, enjoyment raises. But for a lot of them, it almost feels guilty. Like I have to stress about it. I have to take care of this. I have to be on edge all the time to make sure that all things are perfect. And it's hard. It's a limiting belief that not just footballers, but I think a lot of high performers have, or people in general. In a way, makes sense because in some areas or at some level, if you're aiming to sacrifice more, you can get more out of it. But when you get to, especially when it's creative work, that's not how it operates.
So that is event 2.
Great. Yeah.
What about event 3?
Yeah, if you fast forward a few years, so I spoke to you when I firstly decided that I was not going to play, then seeing the psychologist, or actually, when I was lacking confidence, that decided that I was not going to play, seeing the psychologist. Then number 3, I would say professional realization, noticing that I could help people. I would say the first time that someone said to me that it changed my life. So that was in video, not in person, but still very special. I was working on this full time for about a year. So I was 23 years old at that time. And there was a lot of imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Is this actually gonna help people? Is this actually as good as I say it is, or as good as I rap it is? And then speaking to someone and listening to that person saying, "You changed my life. Things are much better now. Thank you so much." It gives you the sense of reward, but yeah, social reward. That's like you are actually doing something meaningful, and that's the main reason why you were doing this, and not just making progress or a selfish approach of like, I can do these, I'm good. But seeing that the actions we're taking are actually helping others around, that's priceless.
And that we even spoke about this the other day of like just the feedback that getting from clients and how it's so amazing to know that you've had some sort of impact in someone's life in that kind of way. And for me personally, this reminds me of a memory when I signed my first professional athlete client. At that point in time, I still had a bit of imposter syndrome. Like I knew 90% of the time that this work. work, right? However, there was still this part of me that needed to see it to believe it, because we are brought up in a society that teaches us, well, if we do something, then it will be created. If we manifest something, it has to be first done with our hands. We have to see it to believe it first, right? And so for me, I was being tested to believe it, to then see it. And I remember it was this moment, maybe a few weeks into this coaching program with this client, and I would wake up the next day and they'd be in England and they would have kicked a goal just after a process that we'd done the night before. And then it was like this consecutive like win. Every time we have a call, there would be something really positive that come out of their play the next day. And I remember watching the news being like, oh my gosh, like, this works. And that was a massive driver for me moving from Australia to London to share more of this work with people and the importance of training your mind. Because similar story to you, except for me, my background was more bodybuilding and being in the gym, right? Was very much focused on nutrition and training. And I was fighting so hard for the aesthetics that I wanted. But time and time again, I was met with injuries or being sick or binge eating. And it was like one step forward, one step back. So to then realize the importance, okay, of there's something needs to change out of that cycle, and realizing why lack of confidence in being able to fully work on myself at that level, it honestly transformed my life. And to know that then other people are benefiting from my story, and probably same for you, it's just so magic. And I'm excited because I trust that this work will keep expanding and growing. There'll be more evidence and data out there for people to access, so that it's not just available for athletes, but available for everyone.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And this experience, when we were able to see that, okay, we can help other people, it makes the past experiences that we went through, that back at the time, it felt like the toughest moments, or the moments of the doubts, we don't know what we're going to do. That moment becomes the turning point. That moment becomes what shapes the work that we do, who we become. And we're discussing this the other day. The more we can implement into this. So it's not on knowledge. It's not, obviously that plays some role, but it's not reading books and executing the same steps every time. It is the wisdom of going through the pain, recognizing what you are going through, why you are going through that, how it feels to be in that position, acquiring the ability, acquiring the skills to go through that, and to shape somehow the way we approach that situation. And then building the mindset, almost like a personality trait, that I am someone who has been there. I know how it feels and how we can overcome that thing, rather than I read about it. And what the book says is that we should do this, this, and that. I don't think it gives the same results. I don't think it's going to bring the same level of empathy, the same level of security they can provide to someone when you've been through something similar, even if different paths or different levels or different stages of life. But you've been through it, you collected the experience, and now that becomes the wisdom that you carry. And not just, I read about it, I memorized some steps that we can apply in here. Therefore, the more experiences that we go through, the more, not necessarily pain, but the more challenges that we are exposed to, the bigger the range of experiences that we have, the bigger the range of skills, abilities that we build, making the job that we do, the approach, the skills a lot more valuable, a lot more refined, which it's only going to help more and more people, or help people in a better way.
Yeah. And on that, one of my favorite quotes that I mentioned a few times on this show is that it's about the times that break you down, break you open, because the world needs you open.
I like it.
I guess the meaning that I give that is those challenging times, even though when you are in it, it sucks, it feels awful, it feels painful, when you really sit with the emotion, when you understand yourself and how you handle that pressure or those feelings, you learn so much about you. And that's what we were talking about before, is getting to know yourself on that deeper level, right? The deeper you know yourself, the deeper you can also know others. And knowing others, if you're wanting to create some kind of legacy or impact or service-based business even, you have to know yourself first, because that way you can then know others and serve them to your best ability. And coming back to what you said about reading a book, like anyone can read a personal development book, but the amount of people that actually execute, it's going to be completely different statistics, right? And I've seen this time and time again with people that I've met through walks of life who tell me all about their mindset jargon, but then are actually not embodying the things that they say that they're going to do. And so I'd love to hear, what is your mindset routine, right, that you do in the morning, in the evening, to make sure that you are on top of your game?
Just on that, what you said, I think that's extremely interesting. And just like what I mentioned, it's not a trade-off of the more you stress, the better than before. It's not as the less I open up, the stronger I become, or something along those lines. It's not a trade-off of I can survive the situation. So any challenge that you are going through, there are two paths that we could choose. We can just push through and survive and wait until that eventually goes away. So for a player, get injured, you can just push through and just wait until you're back to the game. Or there's the other option, which is when we're opening up for others or for yourself, but you're able to uncover what's behind there. And there's one quote from Conor McGregor that says, an injury is not a time of recovery, it is a time of self-discovery. And we can apply that from injury to any hardship, any challenge, anything that we go through. Two paths, just survive, push through, and be the same from before it when you encounter that situation, or using that to create some sort of transformation. On my mindset routines, pretty much what's very consistent is mindfulness meditation. So just be in the moment, listen to myself. That's very consistent. And journaling, pretty much trying to just throw my thoughts on paper, look at them, reflect on that, and also reflect on my values. So having some guidelines of what is the kind of person that I want to become, and having that almost daily stimulus. This matters to me, enthusiasm matters to me, excellence matters to me, and what are the ways that I can exercise that today? So those three, I would say, I'm very consistent with. And then there are things that I'm using from time to time. For example, reading. I love reading, but I'm not the most consistent person on that. Sometimes I'm go for months reading very consistently. Now that I'm traveling for a month, I haven't done any reading, and I don't like it's part of how I do things. But yeah, those three are things that I like a lot, that help me a lot. I feel a clear difference if I'm not doing it to when I'm doing it. And yeah, I recommend, if you want more clarity or more intentionality with what you're doing, a mindfulness to pretty much listen to yourself, see your own thoughts, journaling to evaluate or analyze your thoughts, the way you're operating, and having clear values, which for me, at least at this point in my journey, they're more valuable than goals, because they are pretty much things that I achieve daily rather than working towards a goal that's going to happen in 6 months' time or a few years' time, which is how you live life, not where you want to go. So how you're going to go through the journey rather than what is the direction that you're going. In an ideal world, those two things are going to align, the values and the goals.
And we spoke earlier about passion, right? And following your passion. So we've done the three main events that have made you who you are today, but we can kind of see a similar theme, right? Of you discovering psychology and overcoming lack of confidence to now help others. Do you think that we have this almost destiny set out for us, that life plan, that goal that is ahead of us? Do you think that's already set out for people? Like if they're watching this right now and they have that goal in their mind, but maybe are a bit too scared to go for it. What are your thoughts on divine timing and alignment?
I believe that things are meant to happen. Obviously, not in a way that I'll just chill and that's going to happen. I think I would say it's a mix of both. Like the things are meant to happen, but things are also adapting along the way as we go through it, as we are able to impact directly the things that are going to happen. But my personal belief is that there's some sort of purpose, some sort of task that we must accomplish. And my belief is that there's some bigger force that's responsible for those things. And we can call it God, we can call it universe, energy, or whatever it is. I myself, I don't know exactly how I want to call it, but I believe that there's some bigger force that's impacting the functioning of all human beings, all connections, all life, and that there's some reason for those things to happen, that there's a task that was given that was assigned to me, and that's the thing that I must pursue. I have a lot of confidence, a lot of belief that this is what I am meant to do, to work, to how I'm supposed to use my time. And it feels good to have the almost evidence that there was a reason for the things that I went through. And now that I'm able to use those things in a way that promotes that wisdom, it gives a lot of reassurance, a lot of comfort. Yeah, I'm doing the right thing. All the hard work, the frustration, all the things, all the times that I was going through that loop of the fear and frustration and disappointments, it made me ready for something, and I know what that something is. And I believe that that only happened because of that process of opening up. It was not, I'm going to push through as hard as I can until I get there. It was, okay, this is not working. What can they do now? What's going on? And that requires, in fact, today I may have posted a lecture where I'm talking about this, on how people see mental strength as the guy who is doing push-ups at 3 a.m. without any sort of pain or emotion or anything, that almost emotionless. And yes, there is a mental skill that's valuable in there, a lot of resilience, but that's not the only thing. And people must be aware of, especially again on creative fields, footballer, a basketball player, an entrepreneur. You are not just, your mental abilities are not only resilience. I'll say almost anyone can be resilient, but there's a bunch of other things that are important. Then if you don't have those, the resilience is useless. You're just going to continue to put in more effort into something that doesn't work. So having that, I would say even being humble to understand, okay, I have limits and the way that I'm going about it is not giving you the solution. So there must be another way of doing things.
This is a very good question then for you, because you said resilience, right? But not just that. And then you mentioned the word humble. So let's say we were making a really big soup, right? Bear with me. We're making a big soup and it's going to be so delicious. And when you drink it, it's like, whoa, amazing.
We're trying to.
Yeah, we will, right? So let's say each trait or characteristic that you put in this suit is designed to make the most ultimate athlete, right? What qualities or characteristics would you put into this suit to make that?
So first off, I'd say the most overlooked mental ability for footballers is acceptance. So we come from a culture that's grind, achieve, believe that you can do it, which, yes, it's good. But when you believe you are the only one responsible for the things you're going to achieve, and then you are on the bench, you were injured, or for some reason the coach doesn't like, and you're not going to play, you start blaming yourself, and like you are the one responsible for the situation that you were in. And the lack of acceptance is only going to create more frustration, more disappointment, more lower the confidence, because it feels like it's the same thing that I was saying. You're putting in more effort in a loop that's not going to get the results. So it's not about doing more. It's about changing or rechanneling your energy. So acceptance goes into the soup.
Done.
Self-belief and confidence. So the balance between the two. There are things that I can control, and I know that I can be great at it. There are things that I don't control, and I know how to accept that I don't control that. So that self-belief of I can do better, I can improve, I can learn new abilities, I can adapt, I'm able to overcome the challenges that I'm going through. It's also top, and it's almost visible when we're looking at an athlete, and we can sense that he has a lot of that. The way he portrays himself, the way he asks for the ball, the way he responds to a mistake, that confidence is definitely extremely important in the suit. Motivation. So there's a neuroscientist named Anders Ericsson that he was pretty much spending his life looking at exceptional abilities. So people who are great what they do, what are the common. And one quote or one conclusion that he got to is that people with exceptional abilities are people with an extraordinary level of motivation. Because at some level, some point, the margins for gain are so small that only people who are really motivated to do the work are going to be able to continue to put in the effort, even when it feels like there's no progress. So think of Cristiano Ronaldo or Kobe Bryant or any elite athlete. By the time that they're 26, 28, they accomplished everything. Their level of performance is, they are the best in the world. And somehow, they're still able to continue to put in effort more than people around them who didn't achieve the things that they achieved. If their only motivation was achievement, it was gone. They already achieved that. So that ability of continue to go for more comes from this motivation, from this ability to continue to be engaged in the path, even though you already achieved everything. So,
Okay, two more.
I would say emotional flexibility, which is in part related to acceptance, but it's pretty much I can channel my emotions in a way that they're useful. So if you take Djokovic, I saw a stat the other day, I won't remember exactly how many, but he is the player that was able to turn most match points in Grand Slams than win. Many times he was seeing breaking records during the game. If we take that only piece of image and we show to someone who doesn't understand anything about sports, they're going to say, that guy doesn't have control, doesn't have emotional control, he's breaking records in the middle of the game. And then we look at that stat. He's the best, accounting for a moment of a lot of pressure, doubt, because you're about to lose a game, a lot of insecurity or fear or whatever he's going through is
breaking the racket.
Yeah. But that emotional flexibility of experiencing a lot of that emotion, you really want something to happen, that thing is about to collapse, to fail. I experience that anger, the frustration, the fear, I break a racket, and then seconds later, I'm into the game, able to use that anger for better performance, for better focus, which is very rare, very difficult, because the higher the intensity of the emotions, the harder it becomes to channel them into something that's clever. And being able to do this, maybe not at that extreme level, but in our day-to-day life, having the frustration, having the anxiety, having the fear, but channeling them in a way that it's good, not necessarily enjoyable, which is not always going to be enjoyable, but yeah, be able to experience that and then using it.
This is where breathwork comes in, guys. Breathe, feel, meditate, journal, and then move on. Last one for the soup.
So we've got motivation, emotional flexibility, acceptance, self-belief, and confidence. I'll take connection. I think we're missing some people around that's being able to connect, being able to be a leader or follow someone who's the leader, and yeah, work together towards a common goal, which we see a lot of that in the top athletes. It's especially team sports, the ability to help others, to make others to go in the same direction or to change their behavior in a way that's aligned with the common goals of that group. So yeah, I think that should also be the soup.
I think this is going to be your tasty soup.
We should try it.
We should definitely try. And you guys at home should definitely try also this soup. Delish. Okay. So We did speak about like the passion side of things before, and I love how you mentioned motivation in this suit too. So let's say we have some listeners right now who have this goal of wanting to get to that suit. They want to try the suit, but maybe they have no idea on how to do that, how to even start. What would be your advice for them?
I would say guidance. It's a big thing. Um, as we were discussing previously, when you go through those situations, develop the, or when you go through those situations, you are open to experience that you learn. Naturally, you develop the wisdom of, okay, once I've been here, what are the steps? What are the details that make up a situation like this and how I can go about it? So asking questions, connecting to people, looking for mentorship, for guidance, or even books and courses and videos, pretty much pursuing that curiosity or pursuing that passion for improvement, for learning something that you find useful for yourself is the first step. When I'm working, so if we go more into the guidance and how I work, how I apply this with football players or athletes in general, but most football players, is doing an assessment how each of those areas, so not exactly the ones that we mentioned, but most often we're going to look how's your confidence like, how's your excitement management like, how's your motivation like, how's your focus like. As we have an estimate idea of which of those are the weak points, which of those are the strong points, how we can do more of the strong ones, how can we improve the weak ones, then we start doing the work. It's a very unique process for each individual. There's not a blueprint, like no, I can give you a recipe, then you follow it, and all of the listeners follow, and they're going to get you the same place. It's where you are right now. What is that thing holding you back, and how we can go about it in a way that you overcome it, not that you're just following the loop of more effort, more fear, frustration, and never getting out of that hole.
And for those that are listening, right, if you are feeling like every step forward you take, you're being blocked by maybe an external event, or it's feeling hard, or you're feeling a bit lost or unclear on how to break through that, I think coming back to the words that we put in the suit and exactly what you just said about being curious, being open, and exploring yourself on a deeper level of maybe the limiting beliefs you have around success and around your next level will ultimately help you break through. What would you say is the most common limiting belief that holds people back?
So when we discuss the identity, there's a phenomenon called performance-based identity, which is I am the way I perform. And that belief, I would say it's the number one most common with athletes in general, not just footballers, especially the ones who start playing their sport at a very young age. So as I was describing my trajectory, I started playing very early, and that was the plan A for 13 years of my life. So that was 70% of my life. I was with that plan A. I was praised when I did well. I got sad when I didn't. So my whole soup of emotions, it was always around football performance. And then naturally, what the brain is understanding, and this is the only thing that matters. So we must be very cautious in how we do that activity, how we exercise that activity, especially in front of others. So it's natural, it's like obvious that this is going to happen. The athletes are going to get you 25 years old. So the only ability that they're great at is playing their sport. All of the friends are around the sport. All of their praise is around the sport. All of their money comes from the sport. This is who I am. And it's a very hard to balance that with something else. Obviously, there are ways to do it. But if you are almost unguided or you have no people around you, from a religion, from a psychologist, from a friend or a mentor who has been in that situation previously, it's very easy to fall into that trap and just pursue, or if this is who I am, and when things go well, I feel great, the solution is put more effort into it, and then I'm going to have more positive things to celebrate. And it feels great when that's the only thing, and the only thing is when is going fantastic. You feel like the best in the world, but that collapses very easily.
It's like anchoring their only way of receiving love through their performance.
Yes.
So even if you're having an off day, you feel like you cannot do that because you're then like closing yourself off to what your brain thinks is love because you're not performing. And that, like you said, it's unsustainable because not every day is going to be perfect. And so it makes sense to why then some performers, when they're not having a great day, maybe they are feeling a bit tired, then have those negative self-talk moments of I'm being lazy, I need to push through. And when you push through, that's when you get injured and then it repeats the cycle, right? So that makes sense.
Yeah, that's spot on.
Okay. So, Gabriel, where can my listeners find you if they want to work with you, if they want to follow along with what you're doing? How can they connect with you?
Instagram, that's where I'm most active.
Mm-hmm.
Athlete Mentality, or just Gabriel Deieno. I should show up there. And yeah, there's also YouTube, which I also from time to time post some videos. But if you want to know more about me or see the stuff that I talk about, Instagram is the best place.
He has an incredible social media presence on Instagram, and his posts are so valuable. So definitely go check out Athlete Mentality. He's inspired me so much. And if you were to leave the audience today with one key message that you think that they need to know right now,
follow your passion. Follow the thing that inspires you, that promotes some sort of illusion, some sort of almost feeling like a child. This is the thing that I love about, the thing that I want to pursue, the thing that I will do without checking the clock or my thing. And it's obviously hard to find that. And I think people who find that are very fortunate, are very, not necessarily lucky. I think that's not luck, but I think that's the most rewarding feeling that you can have is waking up in the morning and looking forward to the things that you're going to do. Obviously, it's not every day, but most of the days. Yeah, I would recommend everyone to take that leap, to go after, to really, try to find it and exercise that passion as often as you can.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.